Hello, this is Graphic Policy Radio, a comics podcast that goes down smooth like a movie podcast. This is our roundup of film and television of the year 2018, the year that eats like a decade. I am your host, Ilana Levin, aka Ilana Brooklyn of Twitter. I have assembled a crew of fellow geeks and critics, and we are going to be talking about what we watched and what we liked, and maybe some things we didn't so much. But I'm excited to introduce everybody on the show today is new guests. I'm joined by Valerie Complex. Valerie is a military veteran turned screenwriter and film critic who loves all movies of all genres. Hey, Valerie.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Bill Scurry is a filmmaker and podcaster living in New York with his wife and cat. He's the co-host of I Don't Get It podcast, a frequent contributor to Wrong Reel, and he's the co-founder and proprietor of AmericanCaesar Enterprises.
Hey, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Cool. And Alexis Sanchez is the creator and co-founder of Latinx Geeks, an online community for Latinx who love all things geeky and pop culture. She is a student by day and a geek fangirl by night.
Thank you for having me here.
Yay. So many people who I've wanted to have on for a long time, so this is a good opportunity. I'm going to kick stuff off going a little bit broad, which are, what are the best TV shows that you've watched this year? Can be new, can be a return. What are the TV shows that you have made a permanent date with your TV screen to view? I know for me, has been a big year for finales. Adventure Time's finale, I cried so much, and it was so moving and wonderful. You know, Steven Universe is an ongoing that I definitely think is in its final throes. And both of them are just gorgeous shows, really, beyond anything that's out there, really. But meanwhile, you know, we saw the end of, or at least the temporary end of a lot of the Marvel Netflix series, of which I have a range of opinions. But yeah, like, what are you guys really into right now?
So the one that I finally started watching, a little bit late, a little bit after it came out, but The Dragon Prince, I don't know if either of you have seen it. It's by the creators of, one of the creators of The Last Airbender, and it just has that good lore starting off point. Just the characters are amazing. The lore of this world that they're creating is amazing, and I thought I was just going to watch one episode, and I just finished the whole thing in one day, and I just want season two to already happen.
Yeah, Netflix has been really investing in its animation. Like the She-Ra show, which we just covered on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful and high budget. Like, I'm really excited to see them as a new platform for animated shows.
Definitely.
Did anybody
Valerie.
see the Voltron? Did you see the Voltron finale?
No,
Yeah.
I did not.
Man, what a disappointment. Like, you know, I just don't get it. Like, you have these awesome characters who you kept on throughout the entire show. Spoiler alert. And then you freaking kill them at the end. Princess Allura got killed off at the end. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I heard
problems.
people were upset.
Yeah, I never really got into it because they treated the one Latinx Cuban character as he was always the joke of the crew, and I just was like, okay. I just never really got into it.
But it's funny because the show had really high production values, so I gave it the first season a shot, and then it had nothing to say. Do you know what I mean? It felt kind of hollow.
Yeah, I did the first 3 episodes and felt that.
Well, I'm a big Voltron fan, so I was able to sort of ride out with it. But I totally understand what you're saying, and how shallow it appeared. But another show I really dug this year was Star Trek Discovery.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, very good. Yes,
That one.
I really, really dug it.
Incredible.
Now, let me be honest. I don't watch a lot of television because after Penny Dreadful went off the air, I gave up TV.
Yeah.
So I gave up television, but I did watch every episode of Star Trek Discovery. And it was a really wild ride. I enjoyed it. The production values were really good. It was a very unexpected like plot line. Like you rarely see like, disgraced officers like running around. Like it was just really interesting. I like the direction they took it.
Can I ask you if you nerd out on Star Trek? Is that like a regular thing for you? Because I always wonder about this.
What's funny is I don't know if I'm into the Star Trek fandom, but I've watched almost every season.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So just by, how some, I like anime, but I'm not in the fandom because because I like to preserve my mental health. So
Yeah.
but that's sort of what it is. I think the last season I saw was like Voyager. And
Because I like William Shatner, but I don't like Chris Pine. So my thing is like '80s, like keeping it in the old white man guy, like a bunch of guys talking about getting old and their prostates, and like I thought those
movies.
Star Trek movies, the '80s movies, like Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 are like right where my money is. And I mean, I like all the Star Treks. I love them all. And so I think Discovery did new things, which like old Star Trek fans like pissed and moaned and bitched about, and I love that shit. Like if you make those old people like kind of come out and they just kept saying, because the doctor was like out, he was like kissing his husband, and like people can't stand that shit.
Oh,
and every
yeah.
single episode, it's like, oh, just like do more of it, man. Like get more in there. And like he was great as the doc. Like that was like such a character that they've never had on Star Trek before, and he was like so reliable and yet like classic Star Trek. Like everything about him, he fit right into the mythos for me, and I just like wanted them to continue and understand that they did the right thing.
I mean, anybody who doesn't understand how essentially queer all of Star Trek is a fake fan and needs to go home. Like, I can't fathom. Like, everybody I know who's into Star Trek is queer. I like don't know if straight people even watch Star Trek, so this is all very confusing to me. But yeah, the show was great, and it was not what I was expecting. And it sounds like they might be doing something else with Michelle Yeoh in the future, which would be great.
I really
because
hope so.
Oh, I love her, and I'd watch her do anything.
It could happen.
Definitely.
It could happen. Yeah.
I was at the Star Trek panel, not this past New York Comic Con. Well, yeah, the one last year, so 2017, and she showed up as like, did the whole like fan asking a question, and then oh wow, it's her, and she really just needs her own TV series, just 100% her doing Star Trek. I would watch that. You know what? For that one, I might actually pay CBS to watch that one because currently,
she had great chemistry. Oh, sorry. Go
I'm
on.
sorry. No, I was just going to say, for what I've heard, I think she's getting a spinoff.
Yeah.
Yes,
But we
that's
don't
it.
know what character, if it's going to be the alternate universe or what.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I like that this one did some things. Like we saw, some sexiness. We saw some PTSD. Like it was pretty wild. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
No, that Sonequa Martin Green had like great chemistry with
God.
Michelle Yeoh. Like you think of
yeah.
any actor's dream is to like jump up. Like Sonequa Martin Green is not a rookie. She did a bunch of seasons on Walking Dead. She's had like the hot spotlight put on her, and with a big fandom. And she came in and like knew this is my shot to do something big. First of all, to take the wheel of Star Trek, which plenty of people have done, and this is a big job. But on top of that, it's like Michelle Yeoh is a hero. She's been around since forever, and it's like to go toe to toe with her in the very first episode of Star Trek
And be able to keep up.
Yeah, right, but also create a thing that we want to see more of. It was so good that they brought like. Well, I don't want to spoil, but Michelle Yeoh had a weird path back to the show after early, and it's like, well, you need to do that because we want to see more of this chemistry on the thing. Like, we're not done with that yet, and Sonequa Martin Green had whatever the stuff is that like Kate Mulgrew and Avery Brooks and everybody else who was ever a captain of a ship. She had that like juice to be able to anchor a series, and that kind of shit is great. Yeah.
I did watch some movie. Well, in addition to Star Trek, I did watch some shows that had actors and were not animated this year. I was definitely really pleased with this season of Glow.
I
don't
didn't
know if
actually
anybody
watch
else
this season.
No?
I watched the first season and I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was like one of those like just fun shows, but I haven't had the chance to watch the second one. So,
Well,
I
a
guess
few
it's
things about, I mean, I really feel like as a female ensemble cast on television, granted, I don't watch medical dramas and the kinds of genres that tend to have large female ensemble casts, so I'm not really comparing it to anything, but I think it's just the best female ensemble cast on television. And there's so many distinct women, and they all are dealing with their own particular plot lines that are so well crafted. Obviously, the wrestling is freaking awesome. The show's art direction is flawless, and I am a good judge of those things. They really know the milieu they're working in. The songs are totally the right songs. There's more queer characters this season, which is great.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, I know exactly. Like, I feel like you need to watch season 2. You will get a lot out of it. I mean, especially the characters who are students. I think you'll like the students who are also wrestlers storylines a lot. But yeah, Glow is just great production values, and the leads are just devastatingly good actresses. Like the woman who plays Debbie, I'm forgetting her name, but like she's so hot, it's crazy, and I mean that on every level. But yeah, Glow season 2, and it's going to be back for another season. So I would also say, speaking of things that aren't my normal thing, my frequent friend of the show, Sarah Rasher, had been on my case to watch The Good Place for a long time.
Yes.
And I always told them, like,
quality.
look, I don't watch sitcoms, so why would I watch that? And Sarah would say, it's not a sitcom. Nothing that happens in this show could happen to anyone in the real world. So it's not a sitcom. It's just a half-hour comedy. And I started watching it, and I'm not caught up, but that is a very creative and funny show.
Yeah, The Good Place is like, it's that like feel good, like just quality TV that I put it in the same place as Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstore and like maybe Bob's Burgers, like that. Just like, it's just so good. It's so pure and hilarious. Those are some of my go-tos.
I've never watched the show. I know I talked to Jamila a lot, but I've never seen the show. Yeah, it's weird, the connection I have with people. It's strange. But I it's on my list like of shows to watch. The Good Place along with Killing Eve. People keep telling me to watch that show.
Yes.
Let's do that. Let's talk about
That's
that.
That's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't. But talk to us about it. I mean, if you've been watching it, I mean, I'd love to hear
definitely.
more. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, Alana, I mean, did you watch Killing Eve? I don't want to be the only person.
Please,
Oh,
go
man.
for it. I know nothing. It looks good. It looks good.
All right. So this came out, I don't know. Do you guys like, quote unquote, fly to the quote unquote United Kingdom to get TV shows if they're not available in the United States?
I have my way of getting access.
Yes. Good. So I did that with
Isn't it on
Catastrophe.
Hulu?
It is, but it came out, it was on the UK first.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
yeah, so I caught up. Yeah, I did the thing that I did with a bunch of UK shows where I visited Wales or Lancaster or whatever. But yeah, eventually it was on Hulu, so we wound up paying for it. I want to make sure that at least I paid for it when it was legit. So the thing is that it is the woman who created Fleabag made this show, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And if you watch Fleabag, and Fleabag was like top notch. Fleabag was this Edinburgh Fringe show that the woman managed to finally like successfully translate into a television series, and that short British mold where it stays exactly as long as it needs to. So she also managed to sell this adaptation of a series of spy novels about a Russian killer who is cat birding an Interpol agent played by Sandra Oh, and the tone is wonderful. The tone goes all over the place because it is both extremely violent but also extremely playful, and it has incredible wordplay, like you're watching Hitchcock, like or maybe like the Thin Man things from back in the day. And I mean, the two actors, Jodie Comer, who plays this Russian killer, and she's an English actress, but she's playing this like, program Terminator, this killer. And Sandra Oh, no one needs to say Sandra Oh is bona fide. She's been eminent for as long as And yet this is the best thing. I mean, she won the Emmy or the Golden Globe for this, completely deservedly. So it winds up being this like, Captain America versus a Red Skull type thing, where it's like the greatest hero and the great villain, totally human, totally funny. Everything makes sense. Nothing ever defies plausibility or credulity. And it maintains your interest for every single second of it. I mean, again, it's an actor showcase, but it's completely worth it. I would totally recommend it. And if you just keep in mind that the Brits don't fuck around with us. The Brits like give us good TV. They don't do that bait and switch thing like American cable channels can do sometimes. So it really recommends itself.
Thank you. That sounds fabulous. The one show that I was really disappointed with this year is Archer. I actually like the later
Danger
seasons.
Island.
Yeah, Danger Island was not up to par.
Not at all.
I turned it off. I got 3 episodes in, and I can't believe I did this, but I'm an Archer diehard, and I actually stopped watching, and I just I'll watch the final season if they go back to regular structure.
Well, the next season is going to be like based on aliens. I'm going to keep watching it, but I felt like this season I was disappointed in some of the cruelness that I don't think people gave it a moment to sit to recognize the cruelness of it. Usually when the show does that, the show does it in a way that we all recognize this is fucked up, right?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
And this season I felt like it didn't pause for that in a way that I actually was kind of upsetting in the context of it being a comedy. Lucky Yates as the parrot was amazing. And I feel like they treated Pam really shittily, and I'm done with that. And there were a lot of political things they could have done with this setting that they kind of only vaguely hinted at, and I thought were a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, I think they lost the characters a little bit, because I mean, even in this whole dream world, there's still a bit of the core character of who they were in, the real world, I suppose. But they kind of it was just way too off of that this season, and some of the humor it was like they were trying too hard to go back to maybe second season, and it kind of just missed the mark.
Yeah, I thought they pissed away Judy Greer. She was just kind of this weird choking obsessed sex fiend, and you lost all that great Cheryl Tunt stuff that they had worked so hard to build along the way. That's a goddamn shame.
Yeah. BoJack, though, the most recent season, I mean, I think the show continues to be just as good. I thought that the episodes with Diane were even richer than ever before. I mean, I'm super sensitive to how shows handle women having babies or not having babies or trying to have babies and not getting babies storylines, because generally these things are written by men and they're bad. This show, I was like, you've done this and it's not offending me. That's unheard of. So congratulations to them on that. I mean, the show continues to have really smart observations about class in ways that other shows have stepped aside and not noticed. I think the real question at the end of the season is, BoJack has done some really bad things. Is the thing he just did right now the worst thing? Is it irredeemable? How are we going to feel with him moving forward? I'm not really sure. Any other BoJack watchers around?
Oh yeah,
no. I don't do it.
Yeah,
I don't
watch
do it.
that one. I watched it randomly when the first season I think was ending, when they finished. I think they were about to start the second season. And I was really surprised by how much I liked it, and just that whole, I guess, emotional journey and personal journey that BoJack goes on. But I think probably one of my favorite parts of this season is seeing Diane go. She's Vietnamese, at least the character is, I believe. Yeah. And when she goes back to Vietnam and is oh wait, I have no connection to my culture or anything close to it, and just seeing that her go through that struggle and trying to figure out how it actually works, I think was really interesting as someone that is first generation American and sometimes feels that way. So I thought they handled that pretty well, especially considering that Alison Brie is not Vietnamese.
She's definitely not Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good though. Any last shows people want to shout out? Are you guys still watching the premium cable Michigas things?
Yes, I am. I mean, I thought there were two fantastic shows on HBO. And I've given my HBO Go logins to everyone in Manhattan and Brooklyn, so you guys are the last few people. But all right, so there are two great shows on HBO. We had High Maintenance, which I don't smoke weed, but my wife does. But it doesn't really matter because I think it's a pretty fun show. They do a pretty good job for a show that started off on Vimeo and YouTube. Like they take a lot of care to reflect that like asshole gentrified version of Brooklyn that you're supposed to hate. Like everyone's a real dickhead. And I mean it's appropriate. It's really appropriate. It's like Williamsburg and Bushwick and Bed-Stuy, the way that you just like want to drop a bomb on it and kill all those people. But it's a funny show and it has a lot of humanity and a lot of like love for the human beings that are there. But I mean, I thought the two best shows this season were Atlanta, which was just like fucking nuts, and Insecure. Issa Rae delivers every single season, and so does Donald Glover. Those two people are doing some incredible, like ahead of the curve work on TV. That I mean, they get awards, but I just feel like, is anybody watching these? And are they watching like what people are actually doing with the form? Because you got some real line bending, genre bending type stuff that's being done at a high level by creators who were kind of like came from non-traditional venues. And I would say, I mean, Atlanta's on FX, and you can just watch that. HBO, you do need the login to see Insecure, but Issa Rae is doing some amazing things with like the half-hour format, and she's just nailing it.
The show,
I
from
feel
what I've
bad
seen,
for
has
not
got
having
such
watched
good
either
lighting.
of those. Like, I feel
Oh yeah. From what I've seen of Insecure, like the lighting and cinematography are just leagues beyond other shows that are, you know, like I guess dramedy or like, you know, things that are not made to be specifically made as a visual showcase kind of a show. It seems to be way more careful about that than other shows.
Well,
and it looked gorgeous.
Like there's this thing going on right now. Look, I mean, and this isn't really perilous as like a white straight dude to say, as somebody who's like tried to fuck around making movies before. But there's a kind of filmmaking, and I've heard Ava DuVernay talk about this, and Barry
Jenkins.
Moonlight. Yeah, Barry Jenkins talked about this. There is a real corrective measure to light the black body in a different way, just because cinematographers have been so head up their asses about it for years. So, like, something Barry Jenkins did with Moonlight was, like, make it look absolutely gorgeous and, like, letter perfect. And so in the same thing, it, like, Insecure, it is Hiro Murai, who's like this Japanese-American music video director, is the one who was... Hiro Murai was shooting Atlanta, and he does an incredible job, too. And the woman who shoots all of Beyonce's videos is the one who shoots Insecure. Broad City's a different show. And so they get it right, like black skin tone, and not just black skin tone, but the traditional movie, TV, cinematography mixed in with getting black skin tone is totally correct. And there are few other people trying to nail it in such a niche way. And I will agree with you, Alana. That is something that is like head and shoulders this season of TV, and maybe the last few seasons of these particular shows, on a craft level, are getting right. And it is a corrective because they've just done so poorly and so irresolutely for so much of history.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about movies. Valerie, you see lots of movies that I do not see. What should I see that I probably haven't seen yet?
Oh gosh, what haven't you seen that you've heard a lot about?
Well, I haven't seen Beale Street, and I may have noticed you wrote something about it.
Okay.
Talk about Beale, yeah.
When you mentioned about the way Barry Jenkins lights black bodies, like he has the particular, it seems like he has a particular interest in casting those with darker skin, because I know people talk about lighting and the nonsense. Like, I've heard that a lot as well. But If Beale Street Could Talk is really a good adaptation of the source material from James Baldwin's 1974 book, If Beale Street Could Talk. He has tapped into what it takes to document the human experience and the black experience in America. It's something that he is, and I'm not trying to put him in a corner, I'm just saying it's one of the things that he does really, really well. And he sort of forgoes the surrealism, the sort of surrealistic take of Moonlight, and sort of adapts a more naturalistic sort of earth tone hue to Beale Street. And it serves the film really well. I really enjoyed it. It's not the same pace as Moonlight. So if you go in thinking that it's going to be like Moonlight, you're going to be upset. It is a drama, and that's it. Regina King kills it. She's in the film maybe for 15, 20 minutes, but she deserves all the accolades and all the awards and all the Critics' Choice shit that she's getting, because Regina King is a fucking legend in this business.
Yeah.
Okay. The Favorite is like, now The Favorite has, it has some problems. A lot of the problems are sort of external, where there are a lot of critics, mostly white males, who like to compare films like that to the Me Too Time's Up movement. It has nothing to do with that. And so, yeah, I've seen a couple of reviews that's like, in the time of Me Too and Time's Up, The Favorite, and it's like, if you knew what that movie was about, it would make the movement look bad. Like, it's just really well. It's like really, the performances are really good by the leading three women, Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone and Olivia Colman. They are, I don't know how to explain it. They have really good chemistry, and the film is violent, and it's actually a queer story, but much to its detriment, the marketing doesn't tell you that. Until you go see it.
It's very subtle.
And it's like, wow.
Get that taste of it.
Like, the marketing might give you a little bit, but it doesn't give you enough. Because this movie is gay as shit. Gay, okay?
Oh, man.
And I think that if they would have... I think if they would have been more outward with that, then it would have tapped into a whole different audience. But it wasn't until, I saw the movie that I was like, what the hell? And so, you don't, it's one of those things where you rarely see film, you see period pieces like that, where like everybody's just gay. Like,
oh yeah,
that was really something.
Especially women.
Yes, especially women. Trying to think of anything else. Widows. Okay, so, I have my
Widows, yeah.
I have my issues with Widows or whatever, but the performances are undeniable. Well, I just think that the story was a little all over the place. It doesn't really tackle any one subject very well, or very much for that matter. There's a topic of, racial dynamics there that doesn't get it. They tell you it's there, but they don't explore it. They go into a little bit about sex work, and they tell you it exists in this universe, but they don't explore it. So there's a lot of that going on. But Daniel Kaluuya and Viola Davis and Elizabeth Debicki, they're all like fantastic in this. And I don't understand why people are just, I don't know if it's because it's considered genre or whatever, but people are just completely overlooking Widows. And that's my
Valerie,
soapbox.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because one of my friends brought up, he said there was a trend in the movie season, especially the Oscar gloss movie season. And without getting too spoilery about it, there is like a BLM type plot, not even a plot thing. It's almost like a little curly cue off to the side where a character is, he has a really bad run-in with police officers, and he's a character of color. And it's not a plot thread. It's almost like thrown in, and he suspected it might have been Gillian Flynn who added it for a little bit of poignancy. And so he came out of Widows thinking, like, this is like a weird... It's strange to add BLM as a little bit of, like, plot pepper rather than something the movie's about. It's a little too sacred to go in there and use as just something to make it seem like this is timely and a 2018 product, as opposed to like going all in on what it's about. And I totally understand that. I mean, was that something that stuck with you when you were watching it?
I think I feel similarly in that, it just feels, certain things just felt shoehorned in, but they're not addressed. And so I was like, okay, well that's corny. You know, but it's that's the case. It's something that they do, and I just think that it was, and I'm glad that it was written from a female perspective. But I just think I'm not a big fan of films that try to cram in too many subjects at once, and that was my big problem with Hereditary. But that is another conversation.
Right.
Oh yeah, I never saw it. What do folks think about Hereditary? That was this year, right?
Yeah,
It is. I have it. I have it. I'm going to see it like in the next 3 weeks. I haven't seen it. Can we circle back to Widows just for one more second, because there were two performances I loved. First of all, Cynthia Erivo, who I have to say I have not seen yet in anything, and she started popping up in movies this year. She was in Bad Times at the El Royale, which I have yet to see. And, she's like a classically trained English stage actor, and she's just starting to get over into doing. So she was incredible in Widows. She was like all there. She was all up in it. And another person in Widows is, I am seeing her very sparingly, Adepero Oduye, who is in, she was in Dee Reese's Pariah from 2011. She played the owner.
Shit.
She played the owner of the beauty shop.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like she came on the screen, and that's like speaking right to me. Like, you guys know what you're doing. Like, whatever else may be happening with the casting and the plot and whatever else, it's like you get that right by bringing in Adepero Oduye, because that was like one of the best films the last 10 years. That was like a big time success, and I'm like I want to see as much Dee Rees carried through cinema as anyone will like offer to give. And so I love the fact that like that is part of the, like I had to deal with like Colin Farrell, whatever, we all have the crosses to bear, but like you had Cynthia Erivo like breaking the shit down, and that kind of stuff was like really like, let's have that rather than not have that. That's a good move to me.
Well, speaking of movies that are actually about a thing, BlacKkKlansman was fabulous. It was interesting because I loved, and this is not the focus of the movie, but this is a great example of a movie having something as an aside that sort of parallels the main plot points in a way that only makes it more richer. I loved BlacKkKlansman's handling of Flip's Judishness.
That was great.
The way in which it addressed the way his Judaism is visible and invisible, and like how he can hide it in contextual situations, but then it's actually really dangerous in others. Like, I was so impressed at how well Spike Lee did that, and what a great part of the story that was. And then Laura Harrier, who we may recall from as Liz Allen from the Spider-Man Homecoming, and this is just like radiant and amazing, and she's calling our main protagonist out on all of the things that he's doing. And it was a beautifully shot movie. The period setting was really great. I thought that Topher Grace as David Duke was just astonishingly good. And I had forgotten, and I think this is important, I'd forgotten that David Duke doesn't have a Southern accent. And I think it's important for us to remember, like, white people in the North like to assign certain kinds of beliefs to as being, oh, those retrograde people out there, they have bad beliefs, but we are so enlightened here, when like that's not true. We're all terrible. But yeah, I thought BlacKkKlansman was really fabulous, and the way it worked in the footage from Charlottesville at the end of the movie was just like really indicting the audience to get involved. I have nothing but praise for that. Anyone else like BlacKkKlansman?
It's on my list. I have a long
Didn't
list
see it
right
on
now.
purpose.
Yeah, I saw it. I made sure to see it. Yeah, I'm like behind on Spike, and the thing is, I run kind of hot or cold on Spike. This was like good Spike, and like he handled his act. He always handles his actors really well, and he gets who he sets out to cast guys who are at the top of their game, and like John David Washington. Holy shit, that guy, like he looks and sounds exactly like his dad, which is, he can do his own thing in his own sphere, but that's like a big bit of continuity. If you're getting like the son of Denzel working with Spike Lee, that's pretty cool.
I didn't realize that till after. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, people are talking about it a lot beforehand. But to your point, though, about the way Spike kind of gently massaged Judaism into it, Adam Driver, I really like this guy. I mean, I've liked Adam Driver since he popped up on the Lena Dunham show, and I'm like a big fan of him as like Evil Jedi. I think that guy is like working it out. He has figured out how to work with these like directors. He made a movie with Jim Jarmusch 2-3 years ago called Patterson.
Yeah.
Which was so
Great
it was
movie.
so small. Yeah, great movie. It's so small, so gentle, and I think he gets into these like little bits and pieces. He understands how to do a nuanced performance. And him playing like Philip, but he calls himself Flip, was great. And he added some and he did such a great job of being a guy buying into the line of shit he had to say and sitting in with a room full of these Klansmen. And you could say it's an actor's exercise, but you see a person lying, and all actors are lying because they're all just essentially reading a story that they've memorized, and yet you saw the lie from him. He had a lot of heavy lifting to do, right? He had to be the guy who was giving body to the words that Ron Stallworth was doing over the phone. And so the two of them in tandem put together like a real clinic in terms of how to do that.
Yeah, I would say another movie I want to shout out, I don't think it had any wide release, unfortunately, was The Misandrists by Bruce LaBruce, real famous experimental queer filmmaker who kind of comes from from the porn world, basically. I've
heard of him, sure.
Yeah, so I saw it at Nighthawk. They think they had literally 2 showings of it at all. Kembra Fowler, aka Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black, Kembra Fowler is in it. A whole crew of young actors who I don't really know from stuff, but it's like this very it's very much in line with the sort of cinema of transgression stuff from the 90s, but way more coherent and watchable. And I think it's hard to explain Bruce LaBruce movies. It's sort of arch and campy, and all about gender, and it was very over the top in wonderful ways. And the sort of the way the sex scenes with the women are done are a combination of humor and intensity, and I just don't think that movies like that get really the platform that they deserve. And I think if you're into queer cinema, then if you're into experimental cinema, you really got to get and watch The Misandrists. And there's definitely moments where you see the struggling with the production values, but I appreciate those. They make me love it even more. It's definitely one of my favorite movies I saw this year. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but
I did not see it.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's Bruce LaBruce is the shit, and that movie was really great. So, Mandy, anyone?
Yep,
yes,
saw it.
Loved Mandy. Yep.
Tell me, what do you think?
I thought it was great.
Go for it.
Great Grindhouse. I know the co-writer. He's a friend of mine.
Ooh.
I know. I need this. I be feeling bad for name dropping. I'm not doing it on purpose.
No, go for it.
But you're not gonna lie and not mention it. So there you go.
And it was, everybody had been talking about it. I was away in Canada, and everybody's like, "You need to see Mandy." Da 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 da. And I was like, "All right," because I like the director, Panos Cosmatos. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right.
Cosmatos, yeah,
Cosmatos. I like his first film, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and I was really excited for this one because he uses a lot of surrealism and lighting to sort of tell his stories. And this one was actually a lot more straightforward than his first film. Andrea Riseborough, I think that.
Riseborough.
Yeah.
She was really good in this, and one of the best performances from Nicolas Cage ever.
Oh yeah.
To me,
Yep.
and just the way that certain things are used, like LSD, and just the production design was really spectacular. And I'm all for blood and guts and all that, and I really dug it. It was a really good time at the movies.
I like the credulity gap of the movie where you're never quite sure how much of this is actually happening versus how much of this is sort of happening in people's minds. Is this taking place in a real realistic world, or is this taking place in a horror world where these mystical things are true? And the movie sort of danced across that in a way that I really enjoyed, because it would sort of pull you from being like, okay, yeah, like spirits and demons are real in this world, and then you're like, actually, maybe they're not real, maybe this is literally happening in a different way. That was definitely a piece of it I enjoyed.
It happened on camera. Like whatever the reality of it was, like I agree with Valerie, is that it was straightforward, and I appreciate that as an idiot literalist. I always appreciate if you throw something straight at me, and it seems like it was a fairly direct quest story where you saw the thing that was put in front of the main characters. He had a wand, and there was a knockdown, and it was revenge, and Bill Duke came in at one point, and there was a chainsaw duel, and it's just like there was nothing quite like it on a stylistic level. And I mean, in terms of like figuring out genre shit that they're not giving you enough of, people went crazy over this. I mean, if you were watching, if anybody who like wants to make money was paying attention to the box office receipts, or at least like the Twitter buzz, Mandy like cupped everybody's ear and whispered into it. I thought this was a big deal this year, and woe be to he or she who is not paying attention to the hunger for movies like this.
Yeah, and like I wanted to see Assassination Nation, and I didn't get a chance to. Like, I feel like that was just in and out of the theaters really quickly.
It was a decent movie. It had a good message, and I think it used the internet properly. It juggled a few topics pretty well, but it's not perfect. It's another movie about women written by men, so it's gonna be what it is.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. But I think the characters, Hari Neff is the star and the hero, one of the main heroes of the film. And it's it's pretty. I wouldn't put it in the same category with Mandy, but it's I think it's a decent watch depending on who you are. It had audiences pretty split down the middle, so
Gotcha.
I think you would have to see it, and make your own decision or come to your own conclusion. But one film that I did like that sort of divided audiences completely is Suspiria.
Loved it. Yes, absolutely.
I absolutely adored Suspiria. It's not perfect by any means, and some of the story's off. The direction is weird, and I always think about what would Suspiria be like if it was directed by not Luca or not a man, but if it was directed by like Lynn Ramsey or someone else, and what that would look like.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I really, I wasn't a big fan of Dakota Johnson until I saw it, because I was like, I am so sick of her in these roles where she's like this like aloof, this like aloof sort of a damsel in distress, blah blah blah. But actually, that shtick worked in Suspiria, and by the end, you're like, oh wow, that was really well done, and the dancing is pretty crazy. And it's the definition of a true remake. They take the material that was already presented and they elevate it and give us something new, while reminding us of what used to exist. So if it's like, it's not the perfect film, but to me it's the perfect remake because of what it does with the previous material. It's this year's The Neon Demon, which I know a lot of people didn't like. So
loved it. Yeah.
I was scared to see it. Like, I listened to the trailers and I was like, this movie looks gorgeous, and I think it might be too upsetting for me. So I ended up seeing Halloween instead.
God.
Are folks anti-Halloween?
No, it just wasn't good. That's all. Not to me.
I'm pro Jamie Lee Curtis, but
same. I haven't seen it yet.
Don't really love Halloween.
Jamie Lee Curtis looks great. She does great. The movie's just stupid. Sorry. The movie's it's just not good. I didn't mean to use ableist language. I apologize. It's just not good. That's all. That's all I can say.
I'm just a sucker for like the way it played with some of the references to the earlier films, and I appreciated seeing all the women team up. I love me some John Carpenter music, and they really did use there. I'm not saying it's like my favorite John Carpenter movie. It's actually not John Carpenter, so therefore it's not. But no, I did it. I enjoyed Halloween. I did. I'll tell you a movie that I
wait, Alexis, did you see it?
I have not yet, but I am a huge Halloween fan, so it's on my list.
Alexis, what did you see?
I saw Roma. I did see that one, and
tell us about Roma.
Bless Netflix for allowing that movie to be shown to a wider audience, because I mean, like I said, I'm first generation, and I used to go back home a lot to Bolivia. And in Bolivia, it's very common to, have nannies. Like, if you're middle class to upper middle class, like, most people do have nannies. And, and it is often, just like in the movie, indigenous women from smaller communities that come into the cities and to work. And I think the way that, first, I thought it was shot beautifully. Like, all those scenes just with the countryside and the ocean. Like, I absolutely loved it. But I thought it was the way they showed the relationship between Cleo, Yalitza Aparicio's character, and the family. I think it was so honest to how that really works, how those relationships really work. And I thought it was just even, and I know it's based on Alfonso's like actual, like, kind of like his upbringing, how he looked at it, but I think it did a good job showing that although these people work in your house, you form relationships with them. Like, the scene that got me is when spoilers, I guess, is that okay? I'm not sure.
Go ahead, go for it.
When Cleo's giving birth, the grandmother, they're asking her questions about, like, what's her birthday, where is she from, does she have family here, and she has no idea. This Cleo's been working for them for who knows how many years, probably several at least, and they don't really know much about her. And I thought that was just so good, and so often you don't see that. Like, usually it's that, like, oh, this is our housekeeper, but obviously she's family and we love them very much, and we treat them like family, but it's not the case very often.
There's a leitmotif on this show of men writing the stories of women. Just about every single movie that, except for even Bruce LaBruce, I guess. This is a real thing. This is like what's happening with movies, where it's these men writing the stories of women. If they get it right, I mean, I know that the co-writer of The Favorite, it was a man and a woman writing team put it together. But for the most part, this is still the way the business is run. These are still these guys. You're expecting men to get these stories right. In some cases they do, in some cases they don't, but it's kind of like a roll of the dice.
It's shocking to me that they wouldn't have a woman screenwriter for Suspiria, frankly. That's wild.
I'm not shocked.
I mean, it's terrible, but it just sort of seems like a weird
I think
decision.
Tilda Swinton had a lot of influence. She just didn't co-write it. Roma is in my top 5 of the year. I fucking love Roma. I know a lot of people have been complaining about how slow it is. And I'm like, what do you fucking expect?
Which
is
the
a movie called
point.
Roma. Like, first of all, spoiler alert, you see there is like literally kung fu in this movie with a bunch of indigenous men or indigenous people practicing kung fu, and some dude is literally naked with his schlong hanging out, swinging around a sword doing kung fu. I mean, swinging around a stick doing kung fu. There's explosions. There's guns. What do you want?
Yeah. There's like it takes place in the like student protests of the 70s as well, like, and that plays into it. And it's not the main factor, but it's there. And there was this really, really bad article review someone wrote, and that like was talking about how you don't know Cleo's thoughts on anything and that she only has 2 lines. And so I was like, you know what? I need to watch this movie tonight. So I watched it last night because I was so angry about this article and I was completely sure that it was pure nonsense. And it was, because her voice is all over the place with her relationships and the student protests even, and like her relationship with this guy basically knocks her up and then leaves her. And it's so good. It's just so good.
This has definitely been a good year for films that tell you why men ain't shit. Like, it's really been a good year.
That is true.
It's been a good year for that.
Well,
what else did you guys see, Alexis? And what did you guys like? What else did you see? Anything that
I'll
you
tell
liked?
you what has a woman co-writer, although she did not have a story by credit. She was a co-writer on the script. The way writing credits are dealt with by the Writers Guild is complicated and elusive. But was Ocean's 8 actually?
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed that a lot.
Like 6 times.
Didn't see it. Sorry.
Well, what did you think about it, Alexis?
I think it's a very enjoyable film, and just seeing all those women together just pulling off a crime, and Anne Hathaway in as what was her name in that? Daphne Kane, I think. It was definitely Daphne first name. But
yeah.
I absolutely loved her in that like, but she like absolutely was like total badass, gave no fucks, and just like dominated that role, and it was just such a pleasure to see Anne Hathaway do that, like just truly.
Yeah. She was uninhibited. You know who I really loved in that movie, and I no one else talked about this. I thought this was like the best Helena Bonham Carter in like forever.
Oh, that was a good
she
one.
did such a specific thing where she played this character who the whole time was showing her ass. She was so on her knees, like busted out, like had nothing to lose because she was about to like blow her whole business. And so she was the key to this whole caper working. And I mean, I know that she's old school back to like the 80s. She's been doing like all these costume dramas, and she was great in all those old like E.M. Forster adaptations, like going way back.
And in Fight Club.
And in Fight Club, no
Yes.
doubt. And in all the Tim Burtons and all that stuff. But she was so good as like this. She was like this anxious, like, had an ulcer fashion designer who was about to like completely lose her shirt. And she was so tight. I mean, she just got it. I thought that she created this character that was so funny. And she just disappeared in like a great character actor. I mean, that was the opportunity that she is rarely given these days. And she just totally sank into it.
I'm going to paraphrase Alex DeCampi when she wrote about the movie. She was saying, it's like really great to see women who are just unbothered by men's bullshit in any way, shape, or form during this story. Like they're just a non-factor. That actually was one of the things that sold me on it. That, and it all seemed very shippy to me. So there you have it. This all seems there was a number of moments after the movie where Ray and I are talking. We were like, "There's no heterosexual explanation for any of this."
And it truly is not, and it's
right.
wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just a pleasurable movie, a pure cinematic enjoyment experience of beautiful people wearing great clothing, all of them doing their work so perfectly, executing something with complete competence together. It's like candy. It's like a really beautifully crafted bonbon.
And it was directed by like the whitest, so white, straight like dude, heteronormative bro, Gary Ross, the guy who directed Pleasantville and like Hunger Games version 1. And yet he managed to like bite into it, and there was no fucks given. Like I don't know how that wound up being. He was competent enough to do all the heist work, and like he's like a classic Hollywood director. And yet it seemed like there was no thumbprint of the director. Honestly, like there was no identity of somebody creating it other than how strong the performers inside the movie were. I never got the impression there was a director curbing anybody. So Blanchett got to be Blanchett, and Awkwafina got to be Awkwafina, and Rihanna got to be Rihanna. And that's like the most important thing, is that no one overwhelms the people that you cast in this movie.
Well, a very auteurish film of the year is certainly Sorry to Bother You. I think it was one of the only realistic depictions of worker organizing in a movie I've ever seen, other than like Salt of the Earth and things like that. And like the way, because like the way the union organizer, like speaking as a former employee of many unions, like, the good and the bad of him was like, yeah, that's all correct. But yeah, this is surreal humor, amazing ability to like analyze the world as it exists and show the absurdity of it. Incredibly amazing political diatribe. Obviously, Tessa Thompson is like the actress of the year, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed like Boots Riley's music and his music videos, but it was great to see him be able to just jump in and make an entire like Hollywood movie. Did folks like it?
I liked it. I saw it like 3 times. I really enjoyed the surrealism of it. It's not perfect, it has some pacing issues, but I quite enjoyed it, and yeah, I liked it. I liked Tessa Thompson. I liked Stephen Yeun, who's been doing really great work this year.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it put him in the position of like the hero and the heartthrob, which is something you don't see many Asian American characters doing outside of something like, I don't know, maybe Crazy Rich Asians or whatever. So I like that about Sorry to Bother You. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no. What did you think about the ending? Because I was a little bit thrown by that.
I forgot what happened at the end.
A horse. There's a horse.
I get it. Like, I get it. I mean,
yeah.
Like, I got it. I mean, I get it. Like, we're workhorses. I mean, we always have been, right? And so, it's too late. Like, sometimes when you fuck around and you mess up and you try to atone for it, sometimes it's too late. And you you have already been sucked into the system, and you are already their mule, their horse, their donkey. That's how I interpreted it.
I got a little confused by it. I thought, I'm such a literalist, and again, I appreciate a straight line through a movie. The fact that you had this great story with small touches of weird fabulism, and it wasn't so Dadaist up until the very end. I mean, I guess when they were like, David Cross was doing Lakeith Stanfield's voice, for instance, up until a point, and it's like that's as much as I can get with a surreal, I think. And the thing is, it's like, I will go wherever Lakeith Stanfield takes me, because I think he's like the Humphrey Bogart of tomorrow. He's like the guy who's going to wind up being one of the great leading men. And Tessa Thompson, too, is somebody who's obviously proving her worth. When we got to the Horsemen, I was scratching my head thinking, do I want this movie to go this far full tilt boogie into strange surrealism? And I'm not sure, because it broke my concentration a little bit. And I had trouble like digesting what it was telling me and adding it up into what came before it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know. I have to be honest. I really didn't know anything about Boots Riley's career before this. I missed the music, and I missed the personality, and I was relying on a lot of friends to fill me in on the gap. And this was the first movie by an assured creator, someone who's not a kid. This was somebody who was obviously someone who's messed around in art for a long time and knew exactly what he wanted to say. So I appreciate the fact that it was so concrete. I just didn't know that right turn threw me. I think I fell off the wagon at the end a little bit and didn't quite know where it was taking me. And so I got a little lost in it. And I regret that, because I haven't been able to enjoy this movie as much as all the rest of the cohort, my movie watching cohort, has.
Well, we're coming on the hour. I would love to give people the opportunity to speak a bit about a show or a movie that you recommend that we have not hit up yet. Do you want to take us off with that, Alexis?
Sure. My number one that I saw last week, Into the Spider-Verse. I think what that movie is doing for animation, because I am a huge animation person, I honestly wish we would get more stories told through that medium.
Yep.
But what they did with that, the CGI, the art is absolutely incredible, and the way that they mixed it with this amazing storyline and perfectly blended music and the voice actors that really brought life to these characters, I think was absolutely incredible, and I'm actually gonna see it later tonight again. I will be my third time watching it. So yeah, Into the Spider-Verse I think is something to, I think it's like a marking point for a new trend into adult animation movies that hopefully we'll get more of.
And
Nice.
we also know you of the hashtag Los Runaways.
Oh yes.
Do you want to speak to that?
So Marvel's Runaways is probably one of my favorite Marvel and superhero shows because of how well they have developed these characters, bringing them out of the comic books and like just doing these great portrayals and building on top of what was originally written. And also just like that pure goodness of having like 4 out of the 6 main characters be people of color and 3 of them being Latinx, like that holds a special place in my heart. And season 2 has started off just completely just absolutely wild, and I love it. And I'm only on episode 5. We're still live tweeting, but I think that's one of the Marvel shows to definitely watch.
Cool.
What about you, Valerie?
Stay away from Mary Poppins.
Oh, thanks for the warning. I appreciate that.
You know, I love Emily Blunt. I really think that she's one of the best actresses to come out of the 2000 generation. She's very versatile. She can do action, comedy, drama, period. Like, she's shown that she is, you know, at the top of her game. But Mary Poppins is just an exercise in money bagging, just trying to get money off of a film that hangs heavy on the nostalgia of the first. And without Emily Blunt, I mean, the movie, any scene where she's not in, the film almost falls apart. And that's not how you make a sequel. That's not how you make a movie where it rests its laurels and its entire shoulders on one character. It's not good. Stay away from it.
Yeah.
And it's too long. It feels so long. And I think that I've come to expect that from Rob Marshall movies, for them to be long for no reason.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So yeah. Sorry, I couldn't
Thanks
end
for
with
the
good
warning.
news.
No, appreciate it.
But wait, Valerie, what should we see though?
Oh man, there's so much. You should see Roma. You should see The Favorite. You should see If Beale Street Could Talk. You should see what else? You should see Suspiria. I'm trying to just run down my top 10 here. You should see Paddington 2. You should see.
Oh, okay.
I think I know it seems like a kiddie movie, but I think you really dig it. There's a few others that are not coming to mind, but I think those are some of the ones that sort of. Oh, you should see A Simple Favor. A Simple Favor by Paul Feig.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Watching that tomorrow night.
It's so good. I don't understand how that went under the radar for awards considerations, but Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, I mean, that movie is just, whew. I saw it 3 times.
I just looked it up.
Nice.
It has a woman screenwriter and based on a book by a woman. So, although it is directed by Paul Feig, so I don't know, potential to see some more women's voices come to life on the screen.
I also heard
good.
it's
Thank you.
pretty gay in its vibes
not.
or something.
It
It's
looks
not.
it.
It's not as gay as you
But
think.
does it feel it?
Damn.
Yes, it feels it, but it's not it.
But there's no follow through. Well,
There's some queerness here and there, but it's not like The Favorite where everyone is explicitly like gay. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I had forgotten about that. And Bill, what else do you want to tell us to go see?
Okay, well, one of my favorite movies this year. I'll just leave it to one because I want to keep length down. Do you guys know? Did you watch Support the Girls by Andrew Bajolski?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it.
Let me tell you. I'm not. I don't need to explain this. First of all, my performance of the year was Regina Hall. She should get the Oscar. This was her strongest role to like fucking date. She was so strong. There are nearly no male characters in this movie. And this movie thrives on this 3-woman partnership between Regina Hall, who's the manager of like a Hooters type place, and her lieutenant is Haley Lou Richardson, who's just been absolutely amazing the last few years in everything I've seen her in. And this first-time actress, a woman named Jungle Pussy. She's this rapper named Shayna McHale. She's incredible. She's so good. And the chemistry that Jungle Pussy and Regina Hall have in this movie is so lived in. It's so natural. This is Andrew Bajolski. He's one of these mumblecore dudes from Texas who made this. And yet it's so relaxed. There isn't a single second of this movie that does not feel authentic. And if there's any justice, they'll get a Gotham, one of those Independent Spirit Awards, one of those IFC channel type things. Someone has to recognize Regina Hall because she's been doing quiet work for so long. She's so good. Yeah. She's so unheralded. She's got every single skill in the book, and she's getting the roles and she's killing, but she's not getting recognition. So I'm taking it upon myself this award season to make sure people see this movie just because it does so many great things and it has this actor who I've never failed to enjoy in a single movie. And this to me is her career highlight for sure.
She was great in The Hate You Give this year too.
Oh, I didn't see The Hate You Give. Right, I forgot she was in that. Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
Right.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things as well. Well, thank you all for joining me and reminding me of a number of things I'd intended to see and hadn't seen yet. So this worked out very well. I'm going to encourage folks to follow each of you online. Bill, where can folks find your work on the internet?
I'm mostly Twitter. I think if you look for me on Twitter, at William Scurry, one word, WILLIAMSCURRY. And I throw my podcast up there. I like nattering about movies. I say a lot of stupid bullshit. It's pretty much all happening on Twitter, at William Scurry.
Thanks. And Alexis, where can folks find you next?
You can find me anywhere on Latinx Geeks. We're on Instagram, Twitter, website. And if you want some of my personal nonsense, I'm also Rexus92 on Twitter.
Fabulous. And Valerie?
I am Valerie Complex, VALERIECOMPLEX, all one word, on Twitter, and at Instagram, it's Valerie_complex.
Well, thank you all. This is such a great lineup of people. And to our listeners, thank you. Hope you have a great new year. Tell us if you thought we missed anything. There's so much stuff that came out this year. It's really hard to catch it all. My Twitter handle is ELANA_Brooklyn. That's Elana_Brooklyn. Graphic Policy Radio on our website, graphicpolicy.com. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, anywhere you find your podcasts. As we like to say, keep it geeky.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.